Yo, this is Mike with Comic Lore, and we're here picking up at issue 2 of Captain America. And in this issue, Captain America learns the horrors of war. And we open up with the new Captain America, David Colton, and he is in the middle of the Middle East. He's fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan. And he is just starting his career as a military soldier with his new enhanced abilities. And you can tell that in the beginning of this story, he's so green and he doesn't really understand the full picture yet of how difficult war can be. And he says, was this what it felt like the day after Yorktown? The sun beating down on Washington's face, the British defeated, freedom on the wind. And as he's lost in these thoughts, we see that he's also accompanied by someone on his military personnel team and a local Afghan translator. And they're excited and they want to go back to the base. But Colton is kind of basking in the moment. He's like, hey, man, why do you guys want to leave so early? We first took down Kabul, now Kandahar. We're making progress. And there's no more Taliban in these places. The people, they feel lighter. It feels good. Why can't we enjoy this? How can you not be in love with this feeling? And his translator is letting him know that, it is, but your army's been here, what, 2 months? You've only been here one. You haven't even fought, just dropped bombs. These cities were freed by Afghans on the ground. And Captain America says, exactly my point. It took less than a season to bring democracy back, and it came from within. So here you can see, not just in his actions and his words, but also in his facial expressions, that Captain America is taking this lightly. He thinks the war is over, similar to how it was in early 2000s when America invaded Iraq. And after a month, George Bush had said mission accomplished. And even though we had deposed Saddam Hussein, there was still the entire work of nation building and building trust that would take 10 years and 20 years in some places around the world. And in some places, we were never successful at all. But Captain America, David Colton, he doesn't know that yet. All he knows is the glory of winning and then passing out candy to kids and living in this present moment. And he's telling Kasim, hey, man, you got to let your hair down. Maybe I don't know about everything about war, but maybe you've been fighting too long. And because you've been here fighting the good fight longer than me, but maybe that means you've forgotten what it's like to breathe. Go get a shave, man, and let your face feel the breeze for once. And Kasim tells him, I happen to like my beard, and he takes a walk away. And as that's happening, Captain Colton, which I'll call him to make it easier to differentiate between which captain we're talking about, he thinks to himself, since he was a child, Kasim had lived only through civil wars and Soviet incursions. It's all he knew, and he knew it well. A truth I couldn't fathom growing up in Manhattan, that war never truly ends, not while people carry its horrors with them. And I still had horrors to accumulate. So we see that, back then he was green and he didn't understand, but he learns through a series of unfortunate events how crazy war can be. And when we get over to him being in the helicopter in the airplane with Captain America, Steve Rogers, and the rest of the team, you look and you realize that he has a beard. And Captain America, Steve Rogers, he's clean shaven. So you see these roles reversed throughout this comic. And that's just some subtle foreshadowing that's done in the art that I think is really awesome. But we transition back over to Captain America, Steve Rogers, and he says, decades melted away while I was in the world frozen. The world has changed. And in the airplane, they're having this conversation about whether they're going to call the place they're going to Dunstad or if they're going to call it Hasenstadt. And Colton brings up a good point when he says that, do we even think that the person who was before Victor Von Doom, if he was any better? And he says, you think whoever Hasenstadt was named after was better than Victor Von Doom? Warlords dressed as kings all the way down. Remember, Rogers, we're not here to overthrow Von Doom. This is an extraction mission, in and out. And Captain Colton, he's looking at Steve Rogers and he just checks with him, are you sure you're going to be able to do this? Because we don't want any problems. And Steve Rogers replies, no, sir. Still getting used to things in this time. I went to sleep in a world of chaos. If we saw an enemy, we took them out. And Captain Colton tells him, it's still chaos. Soldier, but the chaos is kept in check. with walls of order spread throughout the world. And we're the walls. And you get this great shot of both Captain America's hopping out of the plane to go and infiltrate Latveria. And Captain America thinks to himself, during the war, when I walk into a new country, a new village, I knew to just listen at first. This isn't my home. Let those who live here tell me how I'm needed. I need to just listen now. Show me the way, Captain America. And so Steve Rogers, his initial intent is to just be a good soldier and go along with the plan to try his best to realize what's going on here. And as they land, Captain Colton, he says, we'll send word once we're back at the extraction point, because once they get close to Doomstaff, the signal is going to be blocking their ability to make contact with Mission Control. And so their goal is to get in, get out, and not to engage any of the enemies. And as they're going through the forest, Captain America and Captain Colton, they're having this discussion back and forth. And Colton lets Steve Rogers know that the base they left from in Romania is just a part of the many bases that America has all around the world. And this does mirror what we have in our current timeline here in the real world, where America is kind of seen as the de facto hegemon around the world. Well, at least it was for a very long time. Some will debate whether we still have that status, but America is the great hegemon, and we kind of dictate a lot of things around the planet using our strong force and our strong military and our logistics to be able to get out and deploy to pretty much anywhere in the world in just a matter of hours or days. And Steve is thinking to himself, we won. What I did mattered. So why do these words haunt me? Is this what freedom means now? A world sprinkled with our military might, our eyes always watching. And, you know, it's a very difficult question for some people because, yes, we do believe that America has helped make the world safer, but sometimes America also creates external problems that can later come back and end up at our doorstep. And so we're going to see how it plays out in this timeline. But as that's happening, Doom pops out and they're like, it's him. And everyone starts fighting Doom. So Captain Colton, he's going straight on into Doom, hitting him with his shield. Captain America, Steve Rogers, he's throwing his shield, and he has a weapon he received from Steve Rogers. Sorry, not Steve Rogers, from Reed Richards in issue number 1 that he wants to use to power down the armor of Dr. Doom so that they stand a chance. But when this is happening, a gun gets pulled and it's put to the head of Steve Rogers. And we find out that this isn't actually Dr. Doom himself. This is actually the rebel crew, because Captain America says one thing about this new world that was the same in the old world is the rebels still use the woods. And so we have to guess that who they're interacting with and who they were fighting isn't actually Doom, but a Doombot. But we transfer over to David Colton when he's in Afghanistan and he's still a young soldier and a young Captain America. And he's thinking to himself, and he says, something was off about Qasim. He'd been translating for us for months now. I didn't want to suspect the worst, but I figured out soon enough that suspecting the worst was part of the job. I tracked the phone we gave him. This wasn't his family's neighborhood. Everything was off. I saw a guy who was going to be trouble. Then I heard, bang, bang, slow motion. I couldn't make the call. We made peace. I had no orders to engage and he starts fighting this guy. And you can see that to David Colton, he's so young and naive. He thinks that just because America says everything's good, that every soldier on the enemy side is going to lay down their arms, that every terrorist in the Taliban is going to lay down their arms, because to them, they're fighting for a just cause, even if we disagree with why they're fighting and their methods of fighting. And he's starting to learn this. And he's saying to himself, it was my first time alone, no unit, sweat, not from the heat, but from something else. Something was shifting in me, but I still didn't know. I didn't know horror yet. That will come later. So he's walking in and he sees Qasim, who has a gunshot wound to his stomach. And Colton's like, you shouldn't be here. What's going on? I got to call this in. And Qasim is just trying to tell him, you don't know about this place, Before the Taliban, these warlords, they control so much around Afghanistan. And he says, this warlord killed my sister. And if I'm free, and if he's saying that, then he's free. He's free to be who he once was. I'm free, he's free. The vacuum's there always. And so basically, this is mirroring the conversation that Captain America and Captain America were having in the plane, that the evil doesn't stop. It's secular. So once one bad guy leaves, the next group who claims to say they're here to save everybody, they actually end up being just as bad, if not worse, than the people who they overthrow. And so Cassim's been living in this for years. And so he finally realizes that this guy's going to come back into power, so I have to do what I can. And he ends up going and get vengeance for his sister. Now, with that, we transfer back to our current timeline in this comic. And here, both Captain Americas are inside of the cabin of the rebels. And this is where we learn for sure that what they were fighting was not Dr. Doom himself, but a Doombot. And the conversation goes as follows. So you and your crew can relax, Captain, our captains. I have to admit, I was just expecting one of you. And Captain America asks, is the robot safe? Is Doombot safe? And the rebels tell him they captured him in a battle and they reprogrammed him. So he's basically on their side. He's one of their allies. But furthermore, they're winning in this battle because they have soldiers who are defecting and they're weakening Dr. Doom's, his control over Latveria, and they feel like they're getting close. And as this is happening, Marius, he doesn't want to let this opportunity go away. So he's trying to convince Captain America to join them and help them take over and depose Dr. Doom instead of just getting the people who they came to get. And this makes Captain Colton upset. And he says, damn it, that wasn't the deal, Wolf. We're not your tour soldiers. And so Captain America, Steve Rogers, he's like, hey, let's step outside so that we can cool off. And as they're outside, Captain America Steve Rogers and Captain America David Colton, they start having a back and forth. And in this back and forth, Colton is trying to stick to the mission. He wants to find the high priority hostages. He wants to get them out. Captain America, he's starting to think to himself, maybe we can do both. Maybe we can help them while also doing our mission and getting the hostages out. And even if we can't, I can act as a distraction by going to see Doom. And that's going to open up time for you to be able to get the hostages without being seen and the evac out of here. And as they're having this discussion, they walk away and it's decided that Rogers is going to go with the rebels. And Colton says, it must be nice thinking you can make things better. Because again, that's who he used to be. He used to be naive. And so we see that Steve Rogers still has that naivety that came from World War II, where it was kind of seen as a very clear war of these are the bad guys, these are the good guys. But now, you know, it's not like the golden age of comics, the silver age of comics, where we know who the bad guys are at all times. It's often morally gray. It's often somewhere in the middle. And that's hard for Steve Rogers to accept. But Colton, unfortunately, has already learned that. And we go to his time back in the Middle East, and he said that they're going to be shipped out to Iraq from Afghanistan because they found evidence of weapons of mass destruction. And when you're on the roll, you don't stop. And so he's going from one conflict to another. So Afghanistan, now onward to Iraq. And as this is happening, we see that preparations are being made so that the rebels and Steve Rogers and also Captain Colton and his team can go and look for the hostages. And as this is happening, Captain America is like, everything seems so calm. It's so peaceful, but you can feel it, the fear. And that's what happens when your ruler has eyes everywhere, Marius tells him. So it feels like Latveria is a quote unquote safe place, but it's held together by an aura of fear and distrust, and people are doing the quote unquote right thing, but at what cost, and is it actually worth it? While this discussion is going on, the Doombot finds an entrance tunnel that is used for soldiers and for the robots that is a secret passage that they can use to go inside and get the drop on Dr. Doom. And as this is happening, Captain America is thinking to himself, they never caught him. Hitler. The war was won. Peace was found. But the madman who ravaged the world, the focus of my righteous anger, was never brought to justice. I can hear the same righteous anger in Wolf's voice. So my mind turns over and over with the question, is this why I'm here? To deliver justice that I couldn't manage during my previous life? Has God put me where I need to be? And as this is happening, him and Marius Wolf, they stumble upon Dr. Doom, who's eating alone at his table. And Captain America starts to have second thoughts. He says, Marius is in his time about to take his moment. He doesn't need me here at all. He doesn't. Damn it, David's voice is in my head. This isn't the mission. Cold blood and assassination, it's not the way a country moves forward. And Captain goes to intervene. He's trying to tell him, hey, this isn't justice. This isn't what we do. What we should be doing is taking him into criminal court to face international justice for breaking international law. And as this happens, the Doombot turns on them and starts attacking them. And the robot is speaking, but no one can understand what is happening. But they do understand that he's beating the crap out of him. So Captain America starts to reflect, and he says, my ears are a siren. The robot says something, but I can't make it out. Too easy a trap. I've endangered the hostages, the mission. Nothing like this for my time. Speed, power, force. I'm trapped here, a man with the metal disc, a young man made old by the future, but too damn stupid to stay down. And as this is happening, the Doombot has a defeated Captain America by the head, and he's talking to Dr. Doom saying, you know, I can dispose of him, I can kill him and get rid of this problem. And as this is happening, Doom says, no, wait, this man, the rumors out of New York, they appear to be true. Stephen Rogers, the original Captain America, scourge of fascists, Victor Von Doom and the nation of Latveria welcome you as a hero. And Doom is extending his arm out as a gesture of peace towards Captain America. But as this is happening, the Doombot is still holding on to Captain America's skull, and he could crush it if he wanted to. So we're going to see where this picks up. I promise you, the next few issues are going to be fast. They're going to be very kinetic. You definitely want to subscribe because it is a very exciting story. And like I mentioned, once I hit 1,000 subs, it's going to be a giveaway here on this channel. So I hope you're here to join that with us. Peace.